Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. I'm Chris Hansen, and tonight we are continuing our investigation into Dahvie Vanity, aka Jesus Torres, who is the leader of a band called Blood on the Dance Floor, now stands accused of sexual impropriety in at least 24 cases, and some of the details have been quite disturbing. The victims, survivors, young people who are fans of his celebrity, of his group. And tonight we explore his impact, not just across the United States. We've talked to victims from Florida and from California. Tonight we're going to take it a step further. We have a guest, Kerry Louise, who's from London, England, who joins us tonight, who had her experience with Dahvie Vanity, Jesus Torres, and Breanna Johnson from Arizona, who also at a very young age met and unfortunately had a very, very disturbing time with Dahvie Vanity. So I'd like to start tonight by bringing in Kerry Louise from London. Kerry, how are you tonight? And thanks for being with us.
Hello, I'm doing okay.
Okay. I know the COVID-19 situation is rough there too, and I hope you're getting through that okay. And I appreciate you taking time for us. It's much later there than it is here. From the top, how did you first meet Dahvie Vanity, Jesus Torres? Was he on your radar musically, or how did you become aware of him?
So I knew the band because an ex-boyfriend of mine used to listen to them a lot. So I kind of gotten quite a few good memories from the music. And then I saw they were doing their first tour over here. That would have been November 2012. So me and my friend went along. I didn't really know much about him or anything. I wasn't really much on social media, quite technologically behind in a lot of aspects. But then on the day of the show, I put that I'd been kind of queuing for ages. I'd been there like in the British cold, and then he messaged me on Twitter.
So you were actually lined up to go see his concert that night with a friend of yours, and you put it on social media that you were there, you had been in line a long time, and he actually reached out to you?
Yeah. So it was Warped Tour. So it was going to be a whole load of bands. And yeah, he messaged me directly, like he followed me, messaged me, and then was like, oh my God, like, are you excited for the show? Are you guys cold? You've been out for ages. Have you had breakfast? So he was like, sounded like he was kind of being caring. And then that's when he said, oh, you guys should hang out with us. I'll make you breakfast. Come and meet the other guys.
And you were Kerry, what, about 19 at the time?
Yeah, I was 19. My friend was 17.
17. And so you hear from the head of the band, Blood on the Dance Floor, and an invite to go back to where they were prepping before the show. What happened when you got to the trailer, the bus, the van, where they were at?
So he gets someone to bring a couple of wristbands. I think it was his, and then some other wristband that he hadn't fully tied up. Brought them around for us. We put them on, we went back. I got on the bus. He was in like the little toilet bit of the tour bus doing his makeup. And then we went in, we were talking to Jay and then everyone else that was on tour.
Jay Von Moore, who was also in the band at the time.
Yeah. So him and then a few of like the other touring members and stuff that were like doing the drums and guitar and all of that.
And how did he treat you, Dahvie, when you first met him?
It was really weird. So he was in there doing his makeup at first. He said like a little bit to us, but then we kind of walked up and spoke to everyone else. But then he came out. One of the first things he said to me, because I'd sat down, he was like, that was my seat. And I was like, obviously I was already a little bit kind of like overwhelmed because I'm surrounded by like all of these band people that I knew, but then he was like quite stern. And then I was like, I didn't do anything, so I thought he was joking. And then he was like, you're in my seat, get upstairs.
Get upstairs. Meaning to his private quarters in the tour bus?
Yes. So in the tour bus, everyone kind of just had a bunk, but he had the whole like main room to himself. So I went upstairs like into the main bit, and then he kind of moved me into his like room bit, and then he closed the door.
What did you think was going to happen? And how did you go from 1 minute being in line to see a show to the next minute being in his private quarters on the tour bus?
Yeah, it was like a massive whirlwind. I mean, this all happened in like the space of about an hour, like if that. So like I said, it all just moved so fast. I had no idea why he told me to go upstairs. But when he closed the door, that's when I thought, obviously, things were getting a little bit weird.
And when you say a little bit weird, what did he do when he had you alone in his quarters?
The minute the door was closed, he had like put me down on the like the kind of bench sofa bit and kind of like started kissing me and stuff.
Were you game for this, or were you just so blown away by it moving so quickly that you didn't know what to do?
Yeah, I mean, it was like so quick that I kind of was dumbfounded. I didn't really know what was happening. And then he got his phone out and started taking a video of it.
Wait, so you go to his private quarters, kind of going along with things, but not really knowing what to expect, and he becomes aggressive with you, and he pulls out his phone to make a video?
Yeah, he started videoing it, and I could see he was videoing it. So.
And what happened after he started videoing? What did he do to you?
He'd actually kind of already started before. He made his most of the way there, if you know what I mean. And then he proceeded to have sex with me.
He forced you to have sex with him?
Whilst videoing.
He forced you to have sex and videotaped the act.
But then, I mean, afterwards, he was so complimentary. He was so like overly nice that it was almost really confusing, because then you kind of mistake it for affection, and he kind of makes you second guess what just happened. And he was very good at that. He did that throughout all of the time that I knew him.
So you were 19 at the time, the age of consent, but you didn't really consent to what he did to you. Is that a proper?
No, I mean, he barely even had a conversation with me. And then he was, you know,
having his way with you. What happened after that? Did you go to the show? You said he treated you nicely after that. He had taken a video. Did he do anything with the video? Did he threaten you with the video? Did it just progress?
He didn't mention anything about the video for the rest of the tour. He mentioned it after the tour, a few months afterwards. And actually, he actually asked me if he could release it online.
Release the video online.
Mm-hmm.
I should say, just for everybody who's watching tonight, because we're doing the interview with Kerry from London, we have a little bit of an echo, and I hope you can bear with us for this because the story is too important. That evening, Kerry, what happened? Did you go to the concert?
Well, see, after that, he started making loads of grand promises as well. He was like, you know, I need a female vocalist for this tour. I can tell you're a good singer. Do you want to like perform on stage? And then, I mean, because I'd mentioned that I'd like wanted to be a singer when I was downstairs talking and things like that. So I think he played into that. He did play into that a lot throughout our friendship, and he used it to manipulate me. And then he invited me on tour with them. And there was another girl that was on tour as well with them, and I'd kind of made friends with her. So she persuaded me it was a good idea, and I went on tour with them.
But for that night, when this first happened, you went right on tour with them?
Yep, I did a show about an hour after that, I did the Warped Tour. So to me, this was all grand and amazing. So it had gone from being like, to him making all of these like amazing grand gestures. So it did really confuse me. I mean, I've always had kind of troubled relationships before, so it's very easy for me to mistake affection for, everything else he did.
And did he continue to do this to you in the time that you spent with him on the tour, performing with him?
Not for the rest of that tour. For the rest of the tour, to be fair, I had quite a lot of fun. I was with the other girl that was on tour. We explored cities together throughout the day. I mean, God knows what he was doing throughout the day now. And I played shows, and I was just kind of living it. So what happened to me was so clouded that you almost, I don't know, he kind of made you think that it wasn't as bad as what it was, and look at all of these amazing things that I can offer you. And he's very good at making grand gestures. And
what did he promise you, Kerry?
I mean, he was like, "Oh, I want to bring you to America and get you on some tracks. I've got a record label, Dark Fantasy Records. Things like that. Like, I want to help produce an album for you." I'm like, I'm 19 and I've always wanted to be a singer. So to me, I was like, just dumbfounded, amazed.
Since then, you've learned that he's done this to many, many other young women?
Oh yeah. And people have even come out and said on the tour, in the UK tour, there's a girl from another city who said that during the daytime he had a hotel and he got her to go there, and he assaulted her. And this was all like while I was on tour with him. But in the daytimes when I was off with the other girl that was there, like shopping or going out for dinner, and he was off like assaulting minors right under my nose.
And during the tour in Europe, you guys were in obviously the UK. Where else did you go in Europe?
So actually that was the second tour we did Europe. So the first tour was in 2012, and then he didn't really speak to me much throughout the year. And then towards the end of the year, he said, "We're coming back to the UK, come on tour." He didn't have like a big tour bus this time. He'd obviously run out a lot of his money. I mean, he wasn't having like fancy hotel rooms. So for most of the tour, from what I saw, we were together most of the time. And I don't know if he did anything, but I wasn't aware of it if he did. But then we went to Paris and then Germany.
And did his behavior continue in Paris and Germany? Were there instances there?
Yeah, so Paris was when things were weird.
Well, it sounds like they were all along, but they got even weirder.
Yeah, it gets weirder and weirder as it goes along, horribly enough. So it was just me and Davi. Jane never hung out with Davi. It was quite clear he hated him from the get-go. But Davi said, I've been talking to a girl from here. She speaks French. She's going to show us around to a few bars and things. It'll be really cool. And he'd been, like I said, on his best behavior for the rest of the tour. So I thought, yeah, it sounds like could be a good night. It would be fun. We had a few drinks at one bar, and then we went to another bar where there was kind of like a couple of other people he was getting friendly with. And then he gave me a drink, and then probably about half an hour after that, I was smashed. Like,
and
beyond
you weren't
smashed.
You weren't inexperienced as a drinker in those days. Were you convinced that that drink was spiked?
Yeah, I mean, I was a pretty experienced drinker by then, because in the UK you can drink from 18. So I'd done some drinking, and that was more than drunk. That was a whole other feeling. Like, I know what it feels like to be drunk, and that was not drunk. I was in and out of it. Like, I remember blotches of it. I remember not really being able to control what I was doing, and I threw up a lot. Like, sorry.
It's all right. Where did you end up after being out for drinks and likely drugged?
Yeah. So we all went back to the hotel room. By this point, it was Davi, the girl that we'd met in France, me, and Davi's bodyguard. Davi and the girl went upstairs. I was, as I said, being sick outside of the hotel, and the bodyguard was there holding my hair back. So then we went up a bit later than them. And then go up to the room. I mean, I was desperate to go to bed. And then when I get to the door, Davi answers, and then he asks the bodyguard if he can go and sit downstairs. And then he pulls me into the room.
Do you remember what happened once he pulled you into the room?
I mean, it's a little bit wavy, and I remember kind of blotches of it. I know when I first got in there, it was quite clear Davi and this girl were already kind of having sex. And
did he drag you into it?
Yeah. He grabbed me and he pulled me into it, and then it kind of goes a bit hazy there, and then I kind of become a little bit more with it, I would say about halfway through.
What do you remember the next morning when it was over?
Passing out, and then I didn't remember anything until I woke up in the morning.
And what happened when you woke up? Did you confront Davi with this?
Yeah, so the girl left, and the bodyguard went to go get food. You know, and I said to him, and I was like, what the fuck happened last night? Sorry about my language. What happened last night? I definitely feel like my drink was spiked. And I only kind of remember bits of it. I didn't ask him straight up about what happened. I was kind of probing. And he was like, yeah, my drink definitely got spiked. I was definitely spiked. I don't remember much of it either. And he managed to persuade me that he had like no recollection and that he was definitely spiked as well, which I really don't think he was, because the state I was in and the way I felt in the morning.
Did you accuse him? Did you confront him and say, look, you can say what you want, but I know something happened. I got pulled into something I didn't want to be a part of, and I'm upset about it.
I mean, I was a bit scared to kind of say anything, because he gets quite aggressive and really angry if you kind of even insinuate that he could have upset me or something like that. Like,
or if you could have upset him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like if he'd upset me and I tell him that he would flip. And I was quite scared of that. And I mean, he'd persuaded me, like I said, that he was spiked and that he doesn't really remember much.
What happened in the weeks that followed?
That was right near the end of the tour, really. We did Germany after that. And I mean, I was in a horrible mood the whole time. I just wanted it to be over, but I'm in
why did you stay
foreign country with him.
Yeah, why did you stay with him?
I mean, he was paying for my flight home, so I couldn't really do much. And he was so good at kind of manipulating you and making you feel like you did kind of... It's really hard for me to explain.
Was it sort of expected? I mean, did he set it up like it was part of this music performance, on the road, rock and roll, sex, drugs, lifestyle, and that this was just a part of it?
Not really. He kind of just acted a lot like nothing really happened, and this is just him. He would be like, oh, you know, I get lonely a lot. I need someone to be there with me. And things like, oh, when I was younger, you know, no one ever found me attractive. No one wanted to be with me. So now I'm making up for it. I want to feel wanted. And he would just say all of these things that make you kind of feel sorry for him almost. And he tries to make it seem like what he's doing is okay because of what he's gone through and what a horrible, horrible middle-class life he led.
We hear similar stories from other victims, survivors about, taking a young woman away from everybody else, putting them into a situation where they're forced, aggressively encouraged into an act that they're not willing to participate in. Looking back at it now and knowing what you know about some of these other young women, did you fit into a pattern of his abuse?
I think he spent a lot more time. I mean, because I was with him for about 3 years, I think because he saw he could get he gained a trust. Like I trusted him, which was wrong of me, obviously. And he saw that and he used it, and he manipulated me not only into sexually assaulting me, but to violently physically assaulting me, to using my voice and my lyrics and everything like that. He used me for everything. And it was even worse when I got to California and I was living at his house for 2 months.
He actually brought you to California to perform with him, or to be in the studio to help write music. And what happened when you got there?
Yeah, so he flew me out. He paid for my flight. He said, I want you to be on the new Blood on the Dance Floor track. I'm also making my own solo album and I want you to work on that with me. So to me, this seemed like an amazing opportunity to travel, go to America, meet people, make connections, write music, record music. I thought it was going to be amazing and he was going to pay for it. So I was like, wow, that sounds like a great plan.
What happened when you got to California? How did he treat you once you got there?
So I got there. He was late to pick me up. He was late to pick up every girl he picked up from the airport. There was a few. About an hour late, and then I get in the car and he's on the phone having an argument with a girl who, if you are watching this, I know I'm talking about you. I think it would be really powerful and really strong. And if you came out and told your story, because it's a big story, and I think you need to take back your power and get that out. But yeah, they were arguing in the car, and then that ended, and then we kind of got to his house in San Diego, and he pulled up outside his house, and that is when he stopped the car and grabbed my head and forcibly pushed it into his lap.
Into his lap, which is a story that we've heard, a similar act that we've heard about over and over again with his victims. You're in the car for what, an hour, 90 minutes? He's talking to another woman in a very aggressive conversation. You get to his home and he does this as he pulls up in front of the house?
Yeah, immediately as we get outside the house. And then, when I say forcibly, I mean, it was violent, and all my makeup was ruined. It was everywhere. And then I had to go in the house looking like that. And it was just humiliating, really.
Why did you put up with it, Kerry?
He had manipulated me and gaslighted me for so long. And I mean, in a lot of the times he was so nice. He was really nice. He knew exactly what to say. And I guess I just let him get under my skin.
Was he a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah. He would go from being your best friend and he's like overly nice, and then he does like these amazing grand gestures, and then the other time he will just snap and he will be violent. I mean, what happened outside Bar Sinister?
Well, tell me about that too. On the same visit, you're with him and you're at a nightclub out that way, Bar Sinister, and he snapped again, didn't he?
Yeah, and this time is the worst I've ever seen him snap. And I mean, I'd seen him snap at other people before, people that he lived with in San Diego. This is the first time it'd ever been that bad aimed at me. So we got to the club. He'd already been drinking a lot. I'd been drinking a lot. And then he introduced me to a few of his friends at Bar Sinister. And I met one guy, we were chatting, and then Davi had wandered off with some girl. And me and his friend ended up going to the bar, getting some drinks and chatting. And we must have been gone about 45 minutes until I found Davi again. And then, when I got to him, he was furious that I had gone off with some other guy, like absolutely furious. I've never seen him that angry. It's not even like we were romantically together the whole time I was in San Diego. He had a different girl over every week that he had paid for their flights for. At Bar Sinister, then he confronted me, and then he ran out of the club, and I was walking after him. I wanted to know why he was so angry at me. And then once we got around the corner, he switched and he was like, "You're a worthless, disgusting slut. I hate you. I don't want you here anymore. I want you to fuck off and die." He hit me. He pushed me to the floor. He was screaming at me while I was on the floor. He was still hitting at me. And he was just saying all of these horrible, degrading things about me. While I was literally on the floor up against a fence.
He's assaulting you physically, beating you.
Yeah.
Verbally and physically assaulting you.
He would get up in my face and say like horrible things to me. Like he's squaring up to me, nose to nose, and then pushes me down to the floor.
Did you fear for your life at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I was in like a city in a place I don't know where I am. I don't know anyone. He's the only person there I know. And then a girl and her boyfriend came over to kind of see what was going on, and she was amazing. And she cuddled me and she was like, "Please don't go with him, and please stay with me." But my passport, all of my belongings and everything was at Davi's house.
So he had you trapped, basically. He had the passport at home. You had no way out. Even if you had gone with that other woman and her boyfriend, how do you get out of the country? How do you get home? He paid for your travel.
Yep. And I didn't have my passport or anything like that. I'd have to go back to his house to get it. And he was the only one there who could take me there. So I had to go back with him. But in order to go back with him, he made me beg for his forgiveness, because he said when he got into a fight on the street, there's a video of it on YouTube, I tried to break it up, and then he said that I went to hit him, and he held that against me forever, and then he made me beg for forgiveness so that he would drive me back. So he threatened to leave me there.
He drives you back to the house after making you apologize and beg him to forgive you for him assaulting you physically and verbally.
Yeah.
What happens when
I was in the car begging him not to drive home because he was so drunk and I didn't want to fucking die. I managed to persuade him, but then I had to sit in the car all night and beg him for his forgiveness.
You get back to the house, what happens?
Jay asked what the hell was going on. The video was already on YouTube of the fight. I went in the living room and I just went asleep on the sofa.
How long
And
before
Davi told Jay this whole rubbish story and missed out lots of details and stuff. Usual Davi garbage.
How long before you ended up going back to London?
It wasn't too long after that. I think I only had a week or so left until my return flight was due. So we had more time to try and act like everything was fine and things like that, but things weren't ever really fine after that.
And
I was just ready to go home.
And when you left, were you through with Dahvie Vanity?
Yeah, I mean, I only ever saw him once after that, and that's because I was dating a guy who lived in Salt Lake City, and they were on tour. And I went to see everyone. He asked if I would go and see everyone. And I thought if I was going to be with my boyfriend at the time, everything would be fine. And I'd get to see some of the fans that wanted to meet me. And my friend from Iowa was coming to the show, so I really wanted to go there for her.
For people who may not understand the cycle of abuse in a situation like this, what do you say if asked, why did you even get involved with him after that initial horrible sexual assault? Why did you stay? Why did you go through it? Help people to understand what happened here. And again, I'm not trying to blame the victim here, and that's not what this show is all about. But what was the psychology of it? Why did you hang in there, Kerry?
He was so amazing at he even says like in things that this isn't a fan base, this is a cult. And I mean, he literally is like a cult leader in the way that he can make you believe things that aren't true. He can change the truth, like he gaslights you so that you think things happen differently to what they really did. Question your sanity on it. And like I said, he acts so nice the other times, and he makes these grand gestures and these big promises. And I mean, it was all a load of I don't really know if I can swear, because he never made on any of those promises. I never got paid for any of the music that I did with him. I never got paid for the tour. I got £150 for the first tour, but he told me I'd get £100 a show at the beginning of the tour. He ripped me off the whole time, but he has a way of getting under your skin and persuading you that everything's fine.
Kerry, I want you to hang with me here. I'm going to switch over to Breanna Johnson from Arizona for a minute. And I want to get just a slightly different perspective, Breanna, from you. You were younger. You were 15 when you met Dahvie Vanity?
Correct.
And tell me how that happened. How did you first come in contact with him?
Well, I'd been following his music career for quite a while. Kind of discovered him on MySpace via a couple friends' recommendations. And I had followed them for about a year at that point and saved up money wherever I could to make one of their shows. I finally was able to catch them on the Scene is Dead tour. The show I went to was on November 7th, 2012, the day before they went for their first European tour.
So you had met him right before Carrie Louise got into the picture. This is all
Yes.
right around the same time, the same year. So you were with him. This was before Blood on the Dance Floor actually went to Europe.
Just before.
So he's getting ready to go over there where he's going to be with Kerry ultimately, among many others. And there's 15-year-old Breanna Johnson. And how do you meet him face to face? Does this come after the show? Explain that.
Yes. So the show happened, and then I was actually given a ride, me and my roommate at the time, to the show. So, we went ahead and talked to him after the show for a meet and greet, and he had asked to see my phone and put his phone number into my phone, and I was flabbergasted because I didn't know why me, of all people,
At 15.
At 15. And So the meet and greet ended. The venue was starting to clear out. It was pretty late at that point. And we were still waiting for our ride because we were a couple of cities away from where we were staying. And he had approached me and my roommate, who, we were sitting on the curb, and asked if we wanted to go to their after party. At the time, he and the bandmates lived in Arizona. It was before they moved to San Diego. And so I just contacted my mom because, this is somebody I idolized. And she reluctantly agreed to let me go to this after party because she knew my roommate was there.
And your roommate was older than you?
Yes.
And was that part of the reason why your mom may have let you go, because the roommate was there and she was a little bit older? How old was your roommate at the time?
At the time, I believe in her early 30s.
Okay, so you were with an adult when you went to this party.
Yes.
And what was the scene when you got there? Was it crazy? Was it just a bunch of the band members? Were there other fans there? Tell me about that.
There were some other fans there. The vast majority of them seemed very, very young, but just about everybody had a parent or guardian of some sort with them. So everything seemed fine. His bodyguard was there. His girlfriend at the time was there. Jay went upstairs to his room. He didn't really socialize too much during that time. But everything was pretty calm. People were on their games. They set up video games for everybody to play. My roommate actually helped them make burgers for everybody. Yeah.
So everything was cool. And then Davi approached you at some point in the evening to have a conversation.
Yeah. So he was kind of giving everybody access to their merchandise room at the time and just told them they can grab whatever they want. Just have at it. And I was being a bit modest about it, and I wasn't wanting to just go and ransack their merchandise room. So I think he kind of caught wind of that, and he asked me to follow him, and he would go ahead and hook me up with some merchandise, and wasn't taking no for an answer.
He wanted to take you to get some merch. Where did he actually take you?
He did take me to the merchandise room at that time, but closed the door behind him. And he had asked me if I was a good student. And I was a little naive, and I thought he was legitimately asking if I was a good student in school. And I told him, not really. I wasn't really applying myself. And he just kind of rolled his eyes at me. And so he got me some merchandise. And then I was getting ready to head back to the party. And he stepped in front of the door and asked me how old I was. I told him I was 15. And then he told me to not say anything, because if I did, he was going to get in massive trouble. And then he forced me to kiss him. And then that was the first incident.
When you say the first incident, were there multiple incidents that particular night?
3 altogether.
3 incidents. So he forces himself on you and kisses you. Did it end there? What happened next?
That's when he ended up forcing my head downwards, kind of pushed me to my knees, and yeah.
At 15, did you have any idea how to deal with this? How to say no?
Not at all. And honestly, this is somebody I idolized for quite a while at that point. And I was just, this is somebody I defended online against so many people who knew about this long before I did. Just felt like everything was crumbling, honestly.
Were you able to say, no, I don't want to do this? This is not...
I would say I was kind of in a bit of a state of shock at that time, but looking back, I honestly don't know when I would have had the chance to say no, just because it all happened so quickly.
There had been allegations swirling at the time about his inappropriate relationships with other young women. You had seen this online, and as a fan, you actually defended him.
I defended his name against many people. I wasn't as ravenous as some of his fan base, but.
And after you defended him, you yourself became a victim of this.
Yeah.
Did you tell anybody when you went back to the party after this first incident? Did you go to your roommate who was an adult and say, I'm over my head here. I can't process this. It's time to go?
I wish I had, but I didn't. Like I said, I think I was just kind of in quite a state of shock. And so I just kind of went back to the party, ate a hamburger, and watched people play games. But at that point, I honestly think I was kind of disassociating from the situation entirely and just got worse.
And he approached you again that evening?
2 more times.
2 more times. And he took you to a room and did the same thing 2 more times?
The second time was in their garage. He asked me to help him find something. I don't even remember what it was at the time.
And the third time?
The third time was actually in his bedroom, specifically his closet.
Look, I know this is hard to talk about, and it's not your fault. You're very brave to come forward, and you need to know that the folks watching tonight are very much supporting you and supporting Kerry. And we're going to continue to dig into this until we get some justice for all of you. But that night, after the third assault, I can't imagine what was going through your mind as a 15-year-old who was betrayed in this way by somebody you held in such high esteem, put on a pedestal, essentially.
Yeah. I honestly can't even tell you what was going through my mind at that point, because I reached this state of being where nothing around me felt like it was even real, honestly.
Did you tell your roommate?
I never did. But after the second time, she asked what took so long, and she was getting concerned, asking, like, do I need to get someone to pick us up? What do you want to do?
Did she suspect something was going on between you and Davi?
I believe so. She never came out and asked or said specifically, but I would bet anything.
Did you ever tell her after the fact?
No.
Did you ever tell your mom?
My mom found out pretty recently, actually.
And how hard was that for you to tell your mom? And I imagine it was hard for her to hear.
I imagine she's pretty devastated by it, but she and I have a really, really great relationship. So for the most part, it was pretty easy to talk to her. But it's just one of those things you never want to have to talk to your mom about.
Yeah, exactly. What did this do to 15-year-old Breanna?
It changed a lot of my life, honestly, because one of the things he and I had talked about at the party was how I wanted to get into journalism with a focus on interviewing musicians and things like that. And he knew I was really massively into art. He had offered me a merch position, which ultimately really panned out to anything at all. And he said he'd be my first interview and promised me money, because at the time I was living in poverty, honestly. And just, as Kerry was saying, all these grand gestures and promising to get me out of this situation, and nothing ever came of it. And then I had a hard time focusing in school. And then I reached an age where a bunch of my friends started getting into their music, and I knew if I ever told them to not support him in any way, they wouldn't believe me. I mean, it seems so far-fetched.
Right. But at the time, besides being vulnerable because of your age, your family life was a bit precarious. There were financial issues. You were in a
Yes.
home that for a time didn't have running water. Uh, there were a lot of financial challenges. Did he get you to share that information with him? Did he exploit it? Did he offer you anything? Did he promise you anything?
Well, he offered me the job, which, would lead to money at some point. He said that he'd actually pay to get our water turned back on. Never ended up happening.
And was that part of the reason why you never reported him for assaulting you?
In a way, yeah. I was just, he was, as Kerry had said, he was like Jekyll and Hyde, and he became such a nice person near the end of the party and would make small talk. And, he's offering me the job of my dreams at the time. And, I hate to say it, but there were a few good memories made at that party involving him. It doesn't, just the bad so far outweighs the good.
You listened to Carrie Louise's story before you came on. What were you thinking when you heard her experiences with Davi compared to your experiences with Davi?
Well, there were a lot of similarities. For one, the one that really caught my attention the most was probably the whole noticing that he was recording. The third incident, I'm almost certain he was recording me because he pulled out his phone and he hadn't had it out at any point until then.
Did he do anything with that video?
I never heard one way or another if there was actually a video, but so I don't know if anything happened with it.
Did you have any contact with him after that party?
Very little. He would text me around the holidays and just say, Happy Thanksgiving, things like that. There were a few instances where he had wanted to take me to lunch before they ended up moving to San Diego. I just didn't really respond.
What impact did this have on you long term?
Well, that was kind of a turning point with my anxiety and panic attacks. They got worse, exponentially worse. I stopped really opening up about any kind of bad things going on in my life because I just felt like no one was going to believe anything out of my mouth if, I even mentioned this. I stayed in my room a lot of the time. I don't know specifically how it affected me, except for I just became much less of what I had been prior to the incident.
Breanna, I'm going to ask you to move your mic just a little bit closer to your mouth there. I think it's getting caught up in your hair. There you go. What do you say to other young women who, A, might be blown away by somebody's celebrity, or more critically, communicating with Dahvie Vanity, Jesus Torres right now? He's on social media talking, selling merch, and communicating actively with young women who are saying things like, you really get me, I get you. He's still got a social media presence, a heavy duty one. What do you say to the young women who are talking to him, who are being lured in by him?
There's absolutely no reason somebody his age should be communicating with you. the intentions are not good. You know, I was once where you guys are. It ruined me, honestly.
All right. Breanna, I'm going to have you hang tight with us for a minute. I want to go back to Kerry in London tonight. Kerry, what was it like for you to hear Breanna's story? Obviously, she was a little bit younger than you when this happened, but this happened to her within weeks of what happened to you when you first met Dahvie Vanity.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've heard a lot of stories now that all sound quite similar, and they all happen around the kind of same time scale. But it's really hard to listen to, but it's really good to listen to because I think other victims need to hear it because it was kind of hearing other people's stories and reading that HuffPost thing that really helped me come to terms with what happened to me. Because like I said, he persuaded me that what happened wasn't as bad as what it was. So hearing it helped me come to terms with it a lot. And watching the Surviving R. Kelly documentary. Yeah, if you want to know how a woman can get manipulated, watch that.
Is this similar to the R. Kelly, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these girls in the documentaries, it's, oh, you know, I'm going to produce an album with you. I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to do all of this stuff. And then he controls them, sexually assaults them, violently assaults them. I mean, it's like pretty much parallel to what happened to me.
You could have kept this buried, never said anything about it, Kerry, but you are bravely speaking out tonight. You saw what the Huffington Post did and talked to 21 brave women who stepped forward. Why is it important for you to be heard, Kerry, tonight?
I think it's good to hear how he can like manipulate people and for extended periods of time. And also that this isn't just a Florida problem. This isn't just an America problem. This is everywhere he goes. And if he's still out and about, he's got the freedom to do whatever he wants. And he will always find a way to do whatever he wants.
He is active on social media, as I mentioned to Breanna just a few moments ago, talking to young women in their teens, the same age as you were when you first met him, the same age as Breanna was when she first met him. And they're getting drawn into him, just like you did, just like Breanna did, just like potentially dozens and dozens of other young women who were abused and damaged by him. What do you say to those young women out there right now who are, and I know for a fact, because I've been talking to the community here, that there are young women in contact with him who are in denial, who are planning visits. And the only reason they haven't visited is because of the COVID-19 pandemic and no travel.
Well, while you're still inside, listen to this. Everything he does is fake. Everything he does is fake. When you see the posts on his Instagram with all of these inspirational quotes, I've seen him on Google typing in inspirational quotes and then he copies and pastes. His wig is fake, so his hair is fake. Everything about him is fake. Don't believe what he says to you. It is just a front so that he can do whatever he wants to you, so he can manipulate you, so he can... Just don't believe everything he says. And though he seems like a nice person, he's not.
In reality, who is Dahvie Vanity?
He's a pedophile in a wig. He's just everything horrible. And for a long time, he convinced me we were best friends. But he's a psychopath. He's at the very least a sociopath. He doesn't care how you feel. He has no concept of human emotion. Everything is for his gratification. He will use you for everything in any way that he can. And he is not interested in how you feel at all.
How has he gotten away with this for so long, Kerry?
So he is so trained in the art now. He knows how to not leave a paper trail. He knows how to do it so other people won't see. He's gotten good at it, and he's lost a lot of audience now. So I think he's definitely a lot more restricted than what he was. But 24 victims? No. I mean, I'm going to guess it's closer to 100.
Wow. All over the world.
Definitely in the UK, other people have come out, and I'm sure there's more who haven't. So around America, around the UK, around Europe.
What did Dahvie Vanity take from you, Kerry?
He took a lot of years of my life. I don't sing anymore. I feel like I can't sing anymore. He's ruined that for me. I don't really trust people as much anymore. I've gone through a lot of mental health because of it. It's ruined relationships. I'd say it's ruined a good portion of my life.
Well, you always have a voice on this show. What do you say to Dahvie Vanity tonight?
This question always scares me because I really don't know what I would say, because I'm still scared of what. I don't know. It scares me, the thought of talking to him or knowing that he's probably watching this. And it just scares me. I still get scared over what he thinks about me. I have nightmares. I've had nightmares where he's chasing me with a gun. I mean, what the fuck? I hate you, I guess. But for a long time, I loved you. I thought you were my best friend, and you ruined my life. And no one will ever be your best friend because you're horrible.
What should happen?
Okay. Sorry, what did you say?
What should happen to Dahvie Vanity? Jesus Torres. What should happen to him?
He should be in prison. He shouldn't be allowed to talk to anyone. Anyone. Because he doesn't have any good intentions for anyone. And he should just be away from people. Not even in general population, just stick him on a cell on his own. With no wig and a mirror. And just leave him there so we can look at how disgusting he is.
Breanna Johnson in Arizona. What do you say tonight to Dahvie Vanity, if he's listening?
Honestly, I kind of hope he is watching. I'd love nothing more than to reintroduce myself, because I guarantee he doesn't even remember who I am at this point. And I'd like to think that I had some kind of impression on him. I hope he can't sleep at night because of what he does, but unfortunately I doubt that's the case. And I just hope you know that at this point your days are going to be very numbered, because you've got so many stories against you. I wholeheartedly believe in karma.
Wow. You're receiving so much love tonight in the chat for this show, and so much support for your pain. It's just overwhelming with admiration for your bravery, your courage, your ability to talk about something that obviously is so painful in your past. Breanna, I posed this question to Kerry. I now pose it to you. What should happen to Dahvie Vanity, Jesus Torres?
I think as much prison time as possible. You know, I mean, it's not something that should happen to anybody. Just knowing how young some of these girls have been. He's a heartless, soulless person. He doesn't care. He doesn't. So he just needs to be away from society.
Is there anything else, Breanna, that you want people to know tonight about what he did to you, about him in general?
Nothing really comes to mind.
Okay. Kerry Louise, is there anything else you want people to know about what Dahvie Vanity did to you, what he's done to others, what should happen to him tonight as we speak?
I want everyone to know that I think he is literally like a cult leader, and everyone needs to come out against him. Everyone who he's ever hurt, because there needs to be more people fighting against him, so he no longer has any power. He's going to continue to do this. We need to take back the power. He can't keep taking it from us.
Do you think that the Me Too movement, what has happened in the Weinstein case, the Epstein case, the R. Kelly case, do you think that's what's next for Dahvie Vanity?
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot more people who haven't come forward. And once everyone does, how could anyone believe him over the amount of other people he will have on the other side? And it does make me happy to know that one day we will take him down.
All right. Kerry Louise in London tonight, Breanna Johnson in Arizona. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being brave, coming forward, letting people hear your voice. You will always have a voice on this show and always welcome to have a seat right here. Thank you. Have a pleasant, peaceful evening. Stay strong, stay healthy, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, as you've seen, our investigation continues to reveal more details on what the allegations are against Dahvie Vanity, Jesus Torres, over more than a decade. He's still out there. He's still working social media. He's still a presence. And I have reached out to him. I will continue to hear his side of the story as we continue this investigation. Speaking of our investigations, I should let you know that there is a development in the investigation of Onision Greg James Jackson. I can report exclusively tonight that multiple alleged victims of his are now in contact with a law firm that specializes in investigations of people like Jackson, who are accused of multiple incidents of predatory behavior targeting young women. It's a law firm I've dealt with for a number of years in terms of other investigations I've done for television. And they are talking to the victims in reference to a potential civil case, assisting in the ongoing criminal investigations being conducted by the FBI and the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, as well as potential action against YouTube. And this is a topic that we'll get into as we continue these investigations. YouTube has some responsibility here. We've tried on multiple occasions to get the CEO, Susan Wojcicki, on this program. We will continue to try because I think there is a responsibility there on the part of YouTube to monitor the kinds of things that people like Onision, Greg, James, Jackson are doing, and how they continue to bully the rate and work the system to their advantage. Much more on that. In the meantime, all of you, please stay safe during these very challenging times. As you may know, on Tuesday nights, we've been doing specials on COVID-19. We plan on continuing that. We'll be working on next Tuesday night show. Thank you for having a seat with me here on Wednesday. We will continue here as well. Have a pleasant, peaceful evening. Thank you, and take care.